time it rains, it rains.
Hi there, May Flaum here, creating for Simon Says Stamp for STAMPtember. And today, well, I have an idea of where we're headed, and I think we're going to play with these new Dilutions stamps by Dyan Reaveley, and I just love her stamps, and I love her leaf stamps. And when I saw these holly branches, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be perfect. I'm going to get these and do even more, like all the fun stuff that I already do. So I kind of think I have an idea of where we're going to go with this. And I think we're going to make a card. And what I have right here is a card that I used some pumice stone distress stain, covered it, and then just took some water and flicked it and let it dry, and that's what happened there. And that's going to be our base. I like using cards and tags for experimenting with stuff because it lets me kind of play with things without a lot of pressure. And I'm going to use some winter seasonal distress ink in Festive Berries here, and I might use some other reds, I'm not sure, but I'm using one of Dyan's stencils here, and I'm just using a foam tool and blending that Festive Berries ink all over on those dots. And what that's going to do, and I'm going to hold this in place but lift it so you can see, now I'm going to get some polka dots going there. And I think I am going to take another color. I'll take Fired Brick, and I'm going to, not all of them, but on some of them, I'll rub a bit of Fired Brick on there just to kind of enhance that look there and give a couple of them a little more color. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to spray this with Sunflower Sparkle Perfect Pearls Mist, and I realize that it's a yellow mist, but the thing with this yellow, particular yellow, is it really has a tendency to give kind of a golden look, and that's actually the color I prefer if I want gold. I actually use the Sunflower Sparkle. And I'm going to set that aside and let it dry. And while I do that, I'm going to get my stamps out, and I'm going to get out both of the holly stamps and also the Merry Christmas stamp. Okay, and for this Merry Christmas stamp, I'm going to take different colors of distress markers. This one's Fired Brick, and I'll just kind of be random about which letters I color there. And I'm going to do in just different reds and greens the various letters. And you can take your time on this because you can either, you could always mist it with water, but what I am going to probably do is just huff on it, just kind of blow out, you know, just kind of blow a breath on it when I'm ready. And this is great because it'll give you a little bit more time. Let's see, now I got Barn Door. I do love my distress markers for coloring stamps. You can do so much stuff, from just getting a really good multiple color look to doing stuff like blending with water, and there's just a lot of options that you can take with this. And I think one more color here. Let's go with Shabby Shutter. I always like Shabby Shutter. And if this doesn't work, if I don't like the look of it, then I can always just, you know, redo it. And I'm going to go ahead and blow on it and then stamp on it. This is specialty stamping paper. And there you can see my letters are stamped. And I'm going to go ahead and let these dry because I like how that came out. And I'm going to let these dry before I cut them out. Alright, so the next step, I'm going to get this piece of watercolor paper and some cut grass Dilutions ink spray. And I'm just spraying it a couple times. I'm also going to get out the fresh lime ink spray. And I'm really going to just let those colors saturate there. Oh yeah, we're going wild there. Okay, I'm going to let those colors saturate and let them soak into that paper. Okay, so now that it's dry, you can see there's some variation in color depending on what ink color was where and how it dried and how the color pooled and everything. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking those holly leaf stamps and some black archival ink. And the reason for archival is pretty simple, because I want to have something that won't react with water, because we're going to be adding water to this in a minute. And I'm probably stamping more than I need to, and that is intentional because I want to have choices what bits and pieces I want to end up taking. And I'll do a couple of this single holly as well. And just inking it up. Such a cute holly stamp, and I see so many uses for this. I could definitely see myself scrapbooking with it, but this being September, it's not a time of year I generally scrapbook holiday stuff so much as time that I'm getting cards and tags and other fun stuff kind of prepped and ready so that when the holidays show up, I'm ready and I don't have to rush around. Now my next step here is going to be taking a water brush, and this is a detail tip Tim Holtz water brush, and I am going to apply water on the leaves and on some of the berries. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do the bits and pieces that I think I want. And you might be able to kind of start to see, it's pretty faint, but it will start to lighten up here. And what this basically does is the dilutions are reactive with water, so when we're doing this, it's actually going to kind of soak up and remove some of that color. And it's a really cool effect, I'll show you. And I'm going to take I'm going to let it sit there for a couple seconds, and then I'm going to take a paper towel and blot it, and look at that. Isn't that cool? Now my leaves are really light. And I'm going to repeat this technique. I'll do it over here again just to show you. Just water brush. And if you don't have a water brush, you could just grab a detail tip paintbrush and keep dipping it into water and working it that way. So you don't have to have a water brush to do this if you're wanting to get into it right now and don't happen to have one nearby. And it's just so much fun, and if you just let it soak there, and this is kind of why I use the watercolor paper, because I feel like the watercolor paper is really does a great job of soaking that ink back out. But we could totally do this on a tag, on cardstock, on whatever you happen to have. Okay, so I'm going to spare you the rest of this part. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the video here because I'm just going to keep repeating this. Get it wet, let it set, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, and blot it away. Now, if you wanted more removed, you could go back and do it again. You're never going to get it totally back to the white color of the paper, but repeated applications of this technique, continuing to go back and add more water with a water brush and then let it set, will remove some more ink. So I'll go back and be doing that, and then when I'm done, I'm going to cut these out, but I'm not going to cut them out real exact. I'm just going to kind of cut some of them out, and I'm not going to need all of these for my card either. I'm only going to use a couple. I will save this paper and I will keep using these up for various cards, but I'm just going to gather a couple of groupings of this. Now I have stamped again. This time I've stamped onto watercolor paper that's just white. And now what I'm going to do is I've got some, this is a Tim Holtz water brush just like before, but now I've taken some of the dilutions, ink sprays, and filled up the water brush with it. So instead of being water now, you'll see when now I can paint with these, and if I want to get real fancy, I can do more than one color, of course. I could come through here with my lighter green and do the leaves and then come back with the darker one and accent them. And I'm not going to worry about being really super exact here. And my holly berries, I think I would pick to use the red Dilutions ink spray in this same way and do the berries. But I don't have an empty water brush and I can't find my red one. So instead I'll use my Faber-Castell big brush pen, and this is actually great because this shouldn't bleed or anything if it gets wet, so it shouldn't be affected by my blending or watering down the other stuff. And I am going to do the whole stamp twice and then cut them out around the whole entire thing, and that's going to be the base of my wreath for my card. So now I just need to come back in here with the green. And if it's not real blended, that's okay too. If it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, it's not, those two greens aren't blending together too well. Don't worry about that, because you can always come back in with your water brush and make them play nice. See? Isn't that fun? Oh, I just love this. So much fun. All right, now that I've got all that cutting done, I think I'm ready to set up my card. And I'm going to go ahead and just hand cut out my title or my sentiment, because I'm not worried about it being perfectly straight. This is supposed to be kind of a funky, whimsical looking card, so I'm not going to stress about that. And I've got just a tiny bit of a line to follow anyhow because of the lines that are on this stamp at the top and the bottom. And so I'll just get that cut out first, because I want to figure out where I want this. And originally I was thinking I was going to kind of like cut smaller pieces, like cut the little holly pieces off and build them into a leaf. And let's take a minute there. How great are those? Oh my gosh. I just love these stamps. But now that I'm looking at the size of my sentiment, I'm actually deciding, do I want it to be, how do I want the card to be oriented here? But now that I'm into assembly mode, I'm thinking it'd be more effective to have the holly leaves poking out from underneath my sentiment. And I'm going to play around with positioning here, but that's it. That's my Dilutions card. It's coming right together. And as I said before, the great thing about having all of these cut is, like for example, if I don't use this, I can just use this on a different card, on my scrapbook layout, whatever. It's just on white paper. So there's so many things that you can do with these stamps. Before I turn off the video, I want to show one last final thing, and that is I cannot possibly do a STAMPtember video without showing you how I stamp with Dilutions ink sprays. Now you've seen me use them to color, you've seen them in water brushes, but I can also stamp with it. And what I do, 1 or 2 little squirts, okay, and then we just need our stamp block and our stamp. We need our stamp block and our stamp, and you're just going to tap the stamp through there. Okay, and then just go ahead, and I'm doing this on a craft mat, that's the best surface for it, and you're just going to keep tapping, and what it'll do, it'll pick up the ink spray, and what that'll do, it'll pick up the ink spray, but at the same time it'll get rid of, so you don't have puddles of it. If I had sprayed directly on, we'd have way too much, and you can see how it gives you kind of a cool, almost a watercolor effect. And you can just keep dipping back into that and keep on stamping. And I'm going to turn this into a Christmas tag that I'm going to post on my blog in celebration of STAMPtember. So that's just one more little trick I wanted to be sure to show you. I wish you some very happy crafting, and most especially, happy stamping!